This is Andy Crouch from All About Beer. I wanted to take a second to thank Highland Brewing for coming on as an underwriter. We appreciate having the support of Asheville's original craft brewery and love that the folks at Highland get how important it is to support beer journalism. If you want to join Highland and the other companies helping us pay our writers, podcasters, and artists, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. It's an affordable way to join the All About Beer community.
I'm Spencer Longhurst with Barrique Brewing and Blending, and this is the Brewer to Brewer podcast from All About Beer. My guest today is Jesse Brown, the head brewer of Formula Brewing Co. in Issaquah, Washington, and he is here for a conversation that goes beyond the brewhouse and into topics that matter to brewing professionals and curious beer drinkers. First, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at All About Beer. And to support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. We'll get to the conversation in just a moment, but first, this message.
Next time you're going through your books, check and see how much you're paying for brewery software. Odds are you're paying way too much. Ollie is the fastest growing brewery software that is saving brewers time and money while delivering the tools they need to grow their business. Learn more at getollie.com/pod. That's getollie.com/pod.
I'm Bradley Zimmerman from Badger Hill Brewing in Shakopee, Minnesota. Malta Mexico 2-Row is the first of its kind, so I was excited to try it out and see how it performed in the brew house. We had just brewed Mucho Gusto, our Mexican lager, so we used Malta Mexico in our American light lager called Longhorn. Performed well in the brew house. There's a little bit of toasted, flaked rice and then some rice syrup solids in the kettle and a touch of dextrin in the beer as well, and that's it. So it's basically showcasing Malta Mexico 2-Row. We normally use a Pilsner malt in that beer, so we got similar notes to a Pilsner malt, but we got a little bit more cracker out of it. A little bit of not toast and not bread dough, kind of somewhere in between. It had a pleasant sweetness to it, but it wasn't cloying or anything like that. Performed well in the brew house. We hit all our numbers as far as efficiency goes, so we were happy with the results there. If you're doing Mexican-style lagers, Malta definitely helps tell the story, especially since it's grown and malted in Mexico. No one's ever done that to this date, so it's fun to get people excited about that process and where things are going. We definitely like to tell that story. Contact Malt Europe today and visit maltingco.com.
Okay, let's get into this. A bit about my guest today. Jesse Brown is the head brewer at Formula. Jesse has 10 years experience in bartending/cocktail making. I fumbled that already. And 10 plus years as a professional brewer. He has won multiple GABF and World Beer Cup awards. And when he's not running the brew pub, he's planning the next trip somewhere and dreaming about climbing. Jesse, welcome. How are you, buddy?
Hey, it's good to see you, bud.
Yeah.
This will be a fun conversation between two good friends and two obsessed brewers.
Yeah. When I did mine a couple weeks ago and John asked me who I was going to interview, it was pretty much a no-brainer. First thing that popped into my mind, because not only do I consider you one of the best brewers that I know, you're a dear friend, so figured it'd be pretty smooth.
Oh, well, I'm certainly not the best brewer, and you know that that's but nonetheless, I'm happy to be here and excited to have a good chat.
Cool. Well, why don't you give us like a little rundown on kind of what you're doing at Formula for anyone that's not familiar, and
Sure.
kind of what the direction you're steering that beer program since you took over, and
Yeah, I guess
a
I should give
little background.
quick Formula history. I came on board as a consultant while two partners were trying to sort out who was going to own the brewery. That happens often when two partners aren't getting along.
Yeah, I've worked for a couple of those breweries.
Yeah, so I got hired as a consultant to come in and just keep it running while they sorted things out. The original founding brewer had moved on, and I basically was there to consult, and it was good equipment. So I was just having a blast back there, just making beers. And once all the legal stuff got settled out, I found that the new ownership, one of the old owners and the new partner, we got along really well, and I wanted to stay on board. And consulting is kind of stressful. There's always, when is it going to end? I originally signed up to consult for 3 months, and every 3 months they'd be like, it's a little bit longer, it's a little bit longer. These proceedings took a lot longer than they thought to kind of get everything sorted out. So as that stress kind of started to mount, I just thought I started to get really comfortable and happy in the brew pub, and it was a good busy brew pub to be in, and that lends a lot of freedom for me to write different recipes, and it's consistently challenged on running this whole little brew pub by myself. So I've been there. I like to say, like, wherever you're brewing, every summer that you work there. So say you started in March at Barrique and you work one summer, you've worked there for a year. So
Sure.
I'm into my fourth summer, so 4 years at Formula, and I'm having a blast. I have a lot of freedom in the brew house to create and design beer. And early on, and you know this very well, Spencer, I've been a lager guy for a long time, since before it was cool. I liked craft lager, and you and
Unless
I,
it's Czech.
well, yeah. That's true. I prefer German style lagers over Czech style lagers. Um, but you and I both have a great friend in common in Ashley Carter and Bill Lai of Bierstadt Lager House, and they've helped us become the kind of lager brewers that we are today. And being friends with them before they opened Bierstadt and not realizing just how much of an impact they'd end up having on my career was in hindsight, always makes me smile. It's the reason why a lot of the lager beers I make are what they are. One of the bigger differences is that I don't have a filter, so I'm an unfiltered lager brewer, and
Sure.
I kind of learned how to embrace that and kind of find the joys and what I find to be strengths in that brewing. But yeah, so I knew early on at Formula I wanted to steer towards some easy drinking lagers. They were making a lager, but I've just had to make some adjustments and changes as things go.
Enough said. Yeah.
Yeah, IPA is the name of the game, right? We all know that that's what consumers want in the craft space, and so I kind of set out. I guess this would have been 4 years ago. We're still riding pretty high on the haze train, but I saw I think I could see through the trees that West Coast never went away. It's never gone away, and that people actually really enjoy drinking those. And being in the Pacific Northwest, just brewing just outside of Seattle, bitterness is an important component to the drinking culture, I think, along the whole Western Seaboard. And so it was an easy thing to say, well, I want to focus on West Coast as well. And the fun part about being a pub brewer and doing one-offs and just selling everything over the bar, it's something I did not really discuss earlier. We sell everything over the bar. We don't distribute. We don't package. We just sell everything right to our community, the town of Issaquah, Washington. And I find that to be really fulfilling. So yeah, I don't know if that answers that question or not. Kind of ramble.
No, I think that's a great rundown of everything that you're doing at Formula. Yeah, you kind of broached on that subject, but I was gonna ask you. It was one thing I had written down to ask you. Like, obviously, we both kind of went to the Ashley and Bill School of Lager Brewing. So pretty Germanic influence. But I know in the last couple months you've been texting me a little bit about some Czech beers, some questions about Czech beers. So I was curious, like, you making Czech beer?
Yeah. I mean, I have a collab that just finished up. Used a heavy hand of some saws that I got from Hohenberry hops.
Nice.
Really
Yeah.
good. I was really impressed with the rub on these pellets. Those guys do good selection work. They go over there and they work with purveyors that I think are doing a good job. So yeah, I can't not make Czech beer just because I want to slag the style sometimes. It's easy for me to, hazy IPA is an easy soft target. A lot of brewers love to give it a hard time. But you and I had recently discussed that there is a joy in just trying to do the best that you can. Make the best hazy IPA you can. Make it taste killer. Make people happy. That's if you're in a smaller brewery and you get to see customers enjoy your craft, regardless of your personal deep-seated feelings. Like I don't drink hazy IPAs very often, but I like to enjoy small samples of them. I know what good examples taste like.
I brewed one today, my one of the year. So,
I love it.
so yeah, I mean, I was, dialed in trying to make sure I crush this thing because I want to, I get one chance at making a hazy IPA a year. I want to try and execute it to the best of our ability.
It's wild to me that you only make one-ish a year.
I mean, yeah, I don't make a lot of IPA, and most of them are clear. When I do get a chance to make one, it's kind of, our breweries are quite different in the fact that like, we have a pretty heavy focus on mixed culture beer, and then all of our lagers, get packaged and distroed around the southeast and stuff. So
Sure.
we just make a little bit of IPA for our tap room because, like you said, it's still king, and we have consumers that want to come in and have an IPA. So we started making, try and keep one around at least, usually clear and usually bitter. But once in a while, I like to throw one in and make it sweet and hazy and juicy and whatever those other cool buzzwords are.
Juice box.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
yeah,
My words smell like fruity pebbles today.
it's
Well, speaking of IPA, we're recording this the first week of September here, and I know that wet hop and fresh hop beer is a big focus for you at this time of year. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're doing with some fresh hops this season?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's an exhausting, terribly rewarding, and unique, special time of the year. Um, Only being in the Pacific Northwest the last 6 years as a brewer, has I have the outside looking in approach that we're lucky that we're 2.5 hours from Yakima and some of the best Citra, Mosaic, and Simcoe in the world. And I'm only
Yeah,
4.5 hours from the Willamette Valley in the Oregon hop growing region. And likewise, they have some of the greatest hops in the world.
of
We're lucky to
course.
be able to get those fresh hops straight from the farms. And through making fresh hops, you build relationships with the farms, you build relationships with understanding agronomics better. Um, and it's really special to me that we have this small moment to make these beers and then they're gone.
Right.
If I had to make fresh hop beer year round, I would dislike it. I would not be into it, but because it's such a tight window, it makes it special, makes it unique, and I embrace it. But it is a lot of work. It's a
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
to get the hops from the farm, all the timing of getting the brew set properly. And now there's just all kinds of neat different techniques that brewers are now embracing. And there's new products coming out, these flash frozen fresh hop products that are meant to allow people to make some of these styles and types of beers different times of the year. And the debated thing that always is going around here in the PNW is that, what is a fresh hop? Is fresh kiln hops, does that count as a fresh hop? Does it only count if it's fresh vine and used on the hot side? Does it count if it's used on the cold side? What's your method? What's your process? I mean, people are using like modified weed whackers and
I saw some videos on Instagram of some weed whackers and buckets. Yeah.
yep, yeah, that's a great way to like bust everything up and expose the lupulin, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're also good, you always take the good with the bad. So if you're gonna have more impact and more, I love the dry hop beers pretty hard, and my friends are always like, "Why do you put so much in there?" I'm like, "Well, more is more." But you take the good with the bad. There's consequences to that too. So yeah, fresh hop season's wonderful. I have two fermenting right now. a Strata fresh hop, and a new-ish hop called Luminosa, which I'm really excited about, where that hop could go in the next few years.
Yeah,
And
I made a beer with Luminosa probably it would have been the 23 crop, and I
yeah,
tried to get some more of the 24, and they're like, "Nah, we don't got any, bro. It's all
now
sold."
it's all gone.
So you took it all before it got pelletized and put it in your louder tons. Thanks.
I hope that's good. I like small crops make beers more unique, especially when they're younger. When these hops are younger in their breeding programs, and they're barely naming them, or they don't even have names; they just have numbers. You learn a lot about them as they change through the crop years, for better
Sure.
or worse sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I got one more I'm gonna do in house in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping to get Columbus, but
Okay.
I'll probably end up getting Mosaic. That'll be the easiest thing on that timeline. That's another thing living in the Pacific Northwest that I've learned is that your calendar, you can kind of map out the Oregon and the Washington varietal specific harvest windows. They do
Right.
move, but they're somewhat kind of consistent.
They're
And so,
pretty. Yeah. Obviously, like we don't make any like hot side wet hop beers at Barrique. But we've had a lot of fun playing with putting them in mixed culture beer, and we're getting them overnighted from Oregon, and we're putting them onto mature sour beer, and they're giving us some really cool fruity flavors in those. And we've been getting some of those. I think we're getting Amarillo tomorrow, and I was looking back, and it's like almost the exact same dates. Maybe
Mhm.
a couple days on either side, but it's been pretty consistent the last 4 or 5 years that we've been making these wet hop mixed culture beers, and when those hops are getting to us. So yeah,
I,
it's interesting.
I was sitting next to you at GABF when you won a gold medal for a wet hop Strata mixed culture beer. That was
Yeah, we
pretty.
got our Strata last week or the week before. That's the one that we really lean into because we've had the most success with. But yeah, we've been just buying everything that Crosby's offering us, and that cool little 20-pound box that they overnight to us. So
Yep.
I'm pretty excited. They're doing like the deep cut Cascade, they're calling it this year,
Oh, that's
with
a
like
real
the
thing,
the,
dude.
the late harvest Cascade. I rubbed some pellets of last year's crop, and when they offered the wet hops, I was like, yes, we want this. So I think that'll
It
be the end of our wet hop season in a few weeks here. But
it's a much fruitier expression of that hop as we know it. It
right,
it's neat that they're messing around with some of the pick windows on those, and I think that happens to a lesser degree than we understand or know, but it is new to kind of hear it marketed that way and sold to us that way through our sales reps. So I kind of find that interesting, but also I like that product. I don't use Cascade or Centennial much, but I
sure,
grabbed the box of that late cut this past year and was really happy with the impact.
cool. Um, yeah, so all IPA for wet hops this year. I know you've done some pilsners and stuff in the past,
I
contemporary
have
pills, and
I have done pilsners in the past. I think that we were before we came on. We were talking about Breakside for a couple of seconds. It's a brewery that I revere, respect, and love. Um, um, and Ben Emmons and his crew, they do the nitrogen flushed cryo kind of. They get their fresh hops and they um, nitrogen crack them and put them into finished beer, and I have done that with really good success with lagers. I think you can do that with pilsners really well. They do it with all kinds of different styles. But this year, I'm just doing the hot side. I'm a solo show at Formula,
right,
grain glass. Also, when I don't like a beer, it's my fault. It's my mistake, and it's my thing to be upset about. And when a beer goes well, I can jump up and down and be happy in the brewery, and it's my fault, and that's kind of the way it goes for me. So doing fresh hops, I have some restrictions on some of the fun things I'd like to do, but it stretches me even further than that I probably can. Plus, this is a GABF time of the year. I just have
yeah,
some
that
irons
was
in the fire.
actually going to be my next point. Is like this. this kind of coincides with when you have to have all of your GABF beer in Denver.
Yep.
So, and I know that competition is a big part of what drives you and motivates you, and you've had a lot of success on the national and international stage on those. So, um, yeah, what's the secret sauce? Tell
Uh,
us, Mr. World Beer Cup. We jokingly call you.
yeah, I don't think so. I think competition is healthy. I think competition, the people that are competitive that you see consistently winning have a drive to make better beer and make great beer and make the best beer. And there's a pool of those breweries that you consistently see winning. And even early in my career, I've always wanted to make great beer, but I also would like to, you want to be peer recognized for making great beer.
Sure.
And was athletic when I was younger, so I've always leaned into competition. I think it's a healthy thing to do. If it's, you can't let it be the only thing you do.
Of course. No.
Yeah, you know me really well. You know I'm competitive. I think the trick is learning how to lose, and for me, that's fuel. It's fuel to get back in the lab, get back in the gym, as they say. Just kind of
Right.
work out the kinks and figure out where you can get better. The blind peer recognition is really fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
I want to keep winning, but I also want to know where my beers can get better. I find that the feedback, while every year all of us are chatting about like, oh, I can't believe this entry got bad feedback or whatever. I think you just have to look for the little bits and pieces of information and use some good reading comprehension to kind of break through the what doesn't make sense to what does make sense. And the secret
Yeah.
sauce
There's always like
tried,
there's
man.
always like, a couple conflicting feedback slips, and you're just like, what the heck? And initially you're just like, what the, this doesn't make any sense. And then like, you go back and read it a couple days later and you're like, all right, I can see the common thread here. I can see where this needs to improve, or this, I had this in the wrong category, or, there's always like these little, I always get really bummed out when I get, lose and then get that feedback that's like, you expect the feedback to tell you like how to do it better, but it's really just like what's a little bit wrong with this, and then you have to read between the lines, and it
Yep.
usually takes me a couple days to get there. So after I've just like uh, conceded that this is not my year for that beer, or it's not my year at all. So
When I get my comments back, I go through and read them through thoroughly, and I get, like you're saying, I get frustrated about the things that I wanted to accomplish, or the things I thought were my babies and my favorites, but then I'll move away and not read them for a week or two, and then I'll go back again when I'm not as
emotional, yeah.
emotional and worked up over it. And I find that that's when it's easier, like what you're saying, kind of easier to go back. But I would say that, speaking to any of the brewers listening, the secret sauce to winning in these big competitions, besides being obsessed and besides making perfect beer, is probably packaging, right?
Sure.
You have to
Yeah.
find a way to get that beautiful beer from its finished tank into a perfect package. And I think that might be the most challenging aspect. And that's where a lot of great beer goes to die.
Yeah, I mean, that's fumbling at the 1 yard line.
Yep. Give the ball to Marshawn Lynch. Come on.
Better not say that too loud in Seattle.
Well, it's still a fresh open wound here.
Oh, I believe it. Well, yeah, that's maybe a good time to take a little break and hear from some sponsors. So we're going to take a short break and then come back for more of this conversation with Jesse Brown of Formula Brewing.
It doesn't matter what size your brewery is, 1 barrel or 1,000. Maybe you're in planning. Whatever the size or situation, Ollie has helped brewers save money and become more efficient. The best part? When you're talking to the Ollie team, you're talking to people who have worked in the industry. Learn more about Ollie and how it's transforming breweries everywhere at getollie.com/pod. That's getollie.com brewerymexico.com/pod.
I'm Bradley Zimmerman from Badger Hill Brewing in Shakopee, Minnesota. Malta Mexico 2 is the first of its kind, so I was excited to try it out and see how it performed in the brew house. We had just brewed Mucho Gusto, our Mexican lager, so we used Malta Mexico in our American light lager called Longhorn. Performed well in the brew house. There's a little bit of toasted, flaked rice and then some rice syrup solids in the kettle and a touch of dextrin in the beer as well, and that's it. So it's basically showcasing Malta Mexico 2. We normally use a Pilsner malt in that beer, so we got similar notes to a Pilsner malt, but we got a little bit more cracker out of it. A little bit of not toast and not bread dough, kind of somewhere in between. It had a pleasant sweetness to it, but it wasn't cloying or anything like that. Performed well in the brew house. We hit all our numbers as far as efficiency goes, so we were happy with the results there. If you're doing Mexican style lagers, Malta definitely helps tell the story, especially since it's grown and malted in Mexico. No one's ever done that to this date, so it's fun to get people excited about that process and where things are going. We definitely like to tell that story. Contact Malt Europe today and visit maltingco.com.
All right, welcome back. Jesse, we were just kind of talking competition, and you know, I wanted to kind of pick your brain about a little bit more on that subject. I know that judging at these competitions has been something that you're really passionate about for the last several years since you've been doing it for the Brewers Association. So I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on some insight that maybe how you think that improves your palate and how you think that improves your beer at the end of the day.
Sure. Early on, the brewer I learned from, Nathan Benner, who's running a small brewery in Alaska these days. We're still really good friends and talk here and there. He encouraged me, like, hey, this is a great learning tool to go and, you can go to the grocery store. I was in Wyoming. I started brewing in Wyoming. Let's start there. Not a lot of breweries there. And so it was hard to find good beer. My friends and I would drive all the way to Fort Collins, 4 hours away, to go climbing in the mountains. But on our way out of town, we'd stop at this legendary beer shop called Wilbur's and just load up on different beers. And that was trying to give myself education that way. But Nathan encouraged me to start judging small competitions, whether it be homebrew competitions or I think NABA, or I think they call it IBA now. North American Beer Awards was probably the first real professional competition. And it just opened my eyes to what certain styles are. And you get exposed to you've seen the style guidelines. There's over 100 styles with subcategories. So really there's a lot more to it. And it helped me kind of start building the idea of what a certain style might taste like. I thought that helped give me an advantage as well as a brewer. As I progressed, when I thought about making beers, I could reference back to some of the sensory analysis from those judging earlier. I worked my way up to getting into the GABF and World Beer Cup judging circuit as well. And those relationships are rewarding, right? So while the judging is one part of the joy that I get, I really enjoy being in the room, having those conversations and really picking apart beer. Finding out where are my blind spots. And I love interpersonal communication, and those tables, it's always interesting characters and a lot of high achievers. So it's always neat to get to a consensus some way or another. But just the judging and learning more and more about what a large amount of people, and some of these people being, really high level brewers, very successful brewers in their careers, like what they deem as being excellent, always gives you an idea of what maybe you need to tweak on your own beers. Sure. And I encourage anyone listening that has an interest in judging to judge a homebrew competition. Start looking for the small state competitions. You're laughing, but
no, I'm laughing because I've judged plenty of homebrew competitions, and
it can be rough.
It's a lesson in oxidation and diacetyl.
Right. So if you don't want to pay for off flavor kits, there you go. Yep. you can get a lot of education just by that. And by the way, I've had homebrew beer at homebrew comps that absolutely melted my brain, being so good.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, there's some, but
so it's not like, I don't know. I think it's gotten a lot better these days than it used to be. Obviously, home brewing is kind of declined a little bit, although COVID, I think, kind of bumped it up for a minute there. So
Sure.
those hobbyists have helped push craft beer forward in so many weird, interesting ways that I have a lot of love. I always joke, and I think I've probably told you this a couple of times. I did not come into brewing as a home brewer. I had never done anything in the brewery. I went from bartender to keg washer and worked my way up through the brewery.
Right.
I dream about retiring and setting up the most tricked out kit and just being able to experiment and have fun making small amounts of fun beer. So I kind of honestly get envious sometimes when I hear homebrewers talking about some of the weird things they're doing, which I'd be like, oh, I could never, can't make 15 or 30 barrels of that. That
Right.
would not sell, but man, that'd be neat. 5 gallons, cool. I don't know where
Right.
I put all of that, but
I don't have that many friends.
I don't have that many friends.
Right. Yeah, I mean the last homebrew competition there's like the Nashville, the Music City Brewers. The last one I judged the best in show that we awarded, and John Hall will love this. It was a Rauch beer, and it was mind blowing. It was perfect. And it was just I was just like, wow, somebody made this in their garage or in their kitchen. Like this is what I want my Rauch beer to taste like.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've done multiple pro-ams just for this reason. Being competitive and entering competitions and loving homebrewers, have done multiple pro-am entries into GABF, and it's always been rewarding, and the joy that they get, right? So they come into the brew house and get to execute one of their award-winning recipes, albeit some tweaks and changes
of
to
course.
some
Yeah,
make sense, but
yeah,
it's always a lot of fun.
yeah. I mean, I guess we kind of glazed over this at the beginning, but you and I first met when you had moved to Nashville for a couple years while your wife was doing her grad program here.
Right.
And one of those pro-am beers that you won a gold medal at GABF was on the brew house that I currently brew on. So
That's right. We, besides being good friends, you hired me. You were my
I
boss
did. Yep.
for over a year. And then I was like, oh, I can't stand this SOB. I got to get out of here. Spencer's the worst. And no, I had that opportunity to take that little German brew house. And I would always encourage any brewer that's ambitious, that's excited about pushing their career forward, to look for a struggling brewery to fix, because I find it rewarding. But you have to be willing to suffer to get to the part that's joyous and rewarding. It's hard. It is not easy to
Yeah.
walk into a brewery that's struggling and having problems, to change that perception and execute and flip things around. There's always challenges behind that, but I find that stuff really rewarding. So that was and it was even more rewarding when I left Nashville. You took over for me and made the beer
I
even
sw
better.
I swooped in and yeah, took your job. So
I loved it. Made me
and then I
happy.
just stayed with the building
Mm,
when Barrique took over.
different company, same spot.
Yep. Yeah, that brew house is pretty awesome. It loves making 11 Plato awards.
It does.
Um, I guess I wanted to switch gears a little bit here. Um, we both got into this in our 20s, and we're in our 40s now. So I
Yep.
kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on like what you're doing to kind of maintain your healthy lifestyle and keep slugging tri clamps and hoses around as our backs get a little bit sore and our knees get a little bit tighter. I know for me it's been a little bit eye opening. I can't quite do the same things I was doing a few years ago. I'm not double stacking half barrels, and I'm
Right.
just being a little bit safer and more cognizant of the toll that this affects. The manual labor, but not only the manual labor, the pretty rampant excessive drinking in our industry.
Sure.
Um, so I've always kind of admired your ability to manage that work-life balance and maintain a healthy relationship with that. So I kind of just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a constant challenge, right? I mean, we work in an industry where we have access to this beautiful beverage that is just enjoyable, it's relaxing, it tastes great, and it promotes community and laughter and joy.
Sure.
So it's easy to kind of fall into that rhythm of drinking excessively. I think, oof, yeah, as I get older, my body doesn't react to hangovers as well. This is like not like some kind of
That's
surprise to anybody. And I
right.
think just that alone as something where I need to take it easy a little more often. I
Sure.
still pick and choose like at GABF, I'm gonna get loose. I'm gonna have a great time and I'm
Of
gonna hang
course.
out.
Yeah.
It's family reunion every year for me, and that's a lot of joy for me to hang out with. We're all hanging out at Bierstadt, having a good time.
Yep.
So my normal day-to-day life, there's just no way that I could perform at a high level if I didn't have discipline. And I think that discipline also that you have in the brew house probably should also probably follow you into your personal life and trying to um, keep some guardrails up about what's important, what actually matters, what means a lot to you in your life, like whether those are personal relationships or your personal health, right? As we get older with the knees getting sore, dude, I started stretching. As the
Oh
weird,
yeah.
yeah, this is weird,
Me
right? Like,
too.
what?
Me
I
too.
never needed to do this when I was younger, and now I find myself spending time like just stretching. I got 2 solo brews this week. I got malt coming in. I'm restacking 3 pallets of grain, which is a really healthy workout in itself.
Of course. Yeah.
But you just have to take care of your body a little bit better. Um,
Yeah. My yoga mat doesn't get put away anymore. It's just rolled up next to the fireplace in my living room, and I'm trying to get it out every day, at least for 5-10 minutes, just to get some stretching in. Because yeah, it's getting harder, and I want to continue to do this, for another 20 years. So
Yeah, even in my 40s, have this dream and goal to be still a pub brewer into my late 50s. I think at some point your body will let you know when you need to tap out a little bit, or just make adjustments to what you're doing, or where you want to be in beer. And I think that's
right.
important too for brewers to know, like when the time to kind of be like, all right, the body will let you know when you can or cannot do a thing. But I get so much joy out of doing grain to glass brewing, and I don't want to stop doing it until it doesn't make sense. So that means, like you said, we're stretching. The wife and I love to hike in the mountains here. The mountains here are just absolutely stunning year round, whether it's rain, fog, or sun. It's just fun to hike here. The hiking trails are incredible and the mountains are big. So I think that helps a lot. You just got to be active. You got to find
Yeah.
hobbies outside of beer that require you to be active.
Yeah. I just this past summer recently joined a over 40s men's hockey league, and I haven't really laced up the skates in about 20 years. So that's been a fun ride, but just trying to stay active and find something to do other than, you know, drink 2 or 3 beers after work every day. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty easy to get stuck in that trap of like, the knockout beer or have a shit beer and, catch up with your regulars. But
Yep.
um, obviously that's still important. It's important for us to go to these industry events like GABF and other various festivals that we travel for and stuff, and like talk with our peers and hear learn from them, and also kind of keep your finger on the pulse with what's happening in the greater beer world, what these flavor profiles are shifting to, and like people's experience with new ingredients and stuff like that. So yeah, it's trying to find that balance has been like a priority for me this year.
Good. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I've always admired your ability to do that. So it
Yeah.
just took turning 40 for me to wake up.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I have a partner. My wife, she communicates very clearly about what she needs and wants from me, and it's something that I've always loved. And regardless if it was what I wanted to hear, it's always been the right things and the right things to hear from her. And so that's probably been an advantage of mine that I've had in my career is that I listen to that. I listen to
Yeah.
the people around you that love you and care about you. Got to be a little bit. That's important. You know? So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, it's a tough balance to play with, especially having a partner that isn't in the beer industry and maybe doesn't understand the passion that it takes to do this. Like, you know, we we're on salary or whatever, we
yeah,
don't get paid more to work more, but
no,
we choose to because like that at the end of the day, that's what it takes to make the best liquid that we can.
sure.
Um, yeah, and so, some people don't understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not promoting employees and workers working more and more just for
Of course not.
the
No.
game.
I mean, we're both at home right now. It's one
Right.
o'clock
We're
Pacific
both
time
at
for you,
home.
right?
Yeah, I think it's again, it's kind of like what I said, like the GABF, you'll see me get loose. You'll see me have a
Yep.
good time. I'm going to
Yeah,
be me.
we did that in Indianapolis at the CBC.
Yes, sir. Yes, we did. But in my day-to-day life, I'm going to be picking and choosing those spots intelligently with the responsibilities that I have to live the rest of my life that I want to enjoy and have some health into my um, later part of my career. But right now, I'm in like the happiest part of my career. I know there's a lot of like doom and gloom around craft beer, but I'm having a blast. I have a tap room that consistently has people in it having a good time, and I get to make this wonderful thing that we do called beer, put that in front of them. I don't know. I That's another part of pub brewing that I just think is so special. I don't work in a factory, and for me,
Right.
that's very fulfilling. It really works for who I am.
Yeah, I mean it's immensely satisfying and to, see all the consumers directly enjoying all of your beer rather than just like sending it out and relying on like untapped feedback or like feedback from accounts or distributors like, this beer went really well, this
Yeah.
beer did not go very well, whatever. Um, yeah, you have that instant feedback from how busy your tap room is and
Yep.
the sales data that your POS is spitting out every week.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I'm certainly not listening to customers for feedback on how I need to change or tweak beer. That's definitely not happening. But
no, but I'm talking about
I
like,
will
they're
listen.
they're you're seeing it with their dollars.
Yes, yes. Our community, I think, is really happy to have our beer hall type setup that we have that allows, we're very family friendly and we have tons of families. And in that area, it's a pretty big, thriving family community, about 8-10 miles out of Seattle. So it's suburbia, but not quite. I don't know how
Okay.
to describe it. It's not the burbs, but it's like on your way up into the mountains. It's a big community, but it's close enough to bigger tech companies like T-Mobile's headquarters, Microsoft's headquarters. Google has a massive office 5 miles away. Um, there's just a lot of big business around there. So it makes it easy for us to have a good clientele that
Right.
likes pizza and beer,
It's the perfect combo. It's
right?
undefeated.
It's undefeated.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I see like a lot of our mutual friends in the Seattle area every time they're going for a hike up in the mountains. I always see a bunch of beautiful pictures of beautiful trails and trees and views. And then usually later in the day I see a pint of formula beer on their story, on their
It's
Instagram story. So
becoming a thing, like, and that's something that I encouraged our owner, Danny. I said, man, you work the community angle and I'm going to work the freeway angle. We're right on the freeway. We're on the way to the mountains and we're on your way back from the mountains. And so I've been trying to, kind of just be a good cheerleader for, hey, this is a great place to stop after your activity, whether you're mountain biking, skiing, climbing, kayaking, fly fishing. We actually have a really cool fly fishing shop right next to our brewery, so we get a lot of fly fishing clientele, and that's great
Cool.
too. So it's been nice that the location is just really helped a lot. Yeah.
Been looking at my fly fishing rod in my closet every day for the last like 12 months. Going, I'm gonna take you out one of these days soon. Just haven't
Yeah.
got around to it.
Keep telling myself I'm gonna get back into it, and I don't know. I just think that I have other hobbies. Like I'm still climbing, and not that I'm gonna. I'm a shell of the climber I once was. Like you're a shell of the hockey player you once were, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But I still get so much joy out of it that I don't want to let it go until when I get it. When I push into my 60s, I can go fly fishing. That'll be easy.
Sure. Yeah.
Be a nice walk.
A nice walk and standing in a stream.
Yep.
Well, we're kind of getting up against some time here, I guess, but I wanted to ask you, I know you're a big Buffalo Bills fan, so I wanted to ask you why you think the Packers are going to beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. I just want to
Ooh.
hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. The Packers will beat the Bills in the Super
That's my
Bowl.
pick. I gave DraftKings $10 for it yesterday.
Oh, well, I don't know what that return's going to look like, but
Yeah, it's not
uh,
great, but
not great because a lot of people have the Bills picked into the Super Bowl, but the Packers, not, I mean, they're actually, there's people picking them. I think the Packers beat the Bills if Micah Parsons shows up and he's Micah Parsons.
yeah, that's what we're hoping for. Gave him
That's
$188 million.
And you need a wide receiver too. You don't really, you're looking pretty thin over there in the wide receiver club.
Oh, dude, we got that young Matthew Golden, the rookie.
You're gonna rely your Super Bowl on a rookie?
Yeah,
That's bad odds.
I gotta be
Anyways,
hopeful, bro. I gotta be hopeful.
yeah, yeah.
Just feed the rock to Josh Jacobs.
And just to loop this in, this I've been a Buffalo Bills fan my whole life. I chose them when I was a little kid, and just happened to be the first pub I ever ran was in Laramie, Wyoming, Altitude Chop House. They
Mm-hmm.
won plenty of
Best all beer in the country.
yeah, lots of awards there. Out of a tiny little specific mechanical brew kit, beautiful little 7 barrel pub. And Josh Allen was the University of Wyoming starting quarterback, and him and his family
Right.
would come in after games and have dinner. And I've seen beers over at their table before, so I can say Josh Allen's drank my beer. It's great. It's easy to be a fan.
Easy, yeah. Pretty easy guy to root for.
Yeah, he seems like an easy guy to root for, right?
Well, is there anything else you want to you wanted
Uh,
to touch on before we wrap this up?
yeah, I got two questions for you, my friend.
Okay. Shoot.
When we're talking about, I live in the Pacific Northwest and you live in Tennessee in the South. Specifically as it relates to beer, do you see any craft beer trends kind of coming up in the South that might differ from what we see out here in the West?
Um, well, I mean, you're talking about how West Coasts are still kind of, you know, in vogue in the Northwest. It's definitely still we're definitely still in Hayes Central down here. There are some West Coast and some people are doing more and more of them in than the last few years. But
Okay.
we're still in the Hayes phase.
Okay.
Um, yeah, no, specifically in Nashville, the beer industry's been going through a lot of changes in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I've seen the
With
news.
some conglomeration and acquisitions and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all kind of pans out over the coming months. But um, we're such a small niche brewery that whatever we're doing is people are receptive to and it's working. So I'm not really maybe the right guy to ask on that because I'm not really like following trends or trying to keep up with that.
Yeah.
I think Nashville's such a weird beer town because of the country music honky tonk scene, and like,
Mhm.
almost all the beer that's sold here is still domestics and seltzers and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of that, you know, acquisitions amongst breweries locally, just because it's getting thinner. Um, yeah, but I mean, lagers are rising. I see more and more local people. We have some great events in the South, like Goodwood's, Little Beers, lager focused events, and we're definitely seeing the rise in lager as we are, nationally.
Right.
Um, it's been a pretty good year for us as far as like the mixed culture side. I think a lot of people have been watching the mixed culture scene kind of
My next
ramp
question.
down for the last few years. And we definitely saw a lot of that in 23 and 24 at Barrique, but 25 has been great for us. We're still selling a hell of a lot of bottles over our own bar, and we're distroing not as much package, but we're distroing a lot of draft of it to kind of our surrounding states. Tennessee
Mhm.
doesn't really want a lot of it, but our other markets that we do periodic drops in have been have been gobbling it up. So it'd be interesting to see if that shift continues back towards more complex acid beers rather than the kettle sours and whatever other sour beer is being made now. Or I don't even know what to call it. It's just lactic acid being poured in bright tanks.
Sure.
Everyone calls it sour beer, but it's not. Sure, it's tart, but it's a blonde ale with fruit and lactic acid.
Yeah. I mean, you know this about me, but I have an affinity for Brett beer.
Yep. Yeah, we
You
were just chatting about that.
love Rausch beer. I love Brett beer. I like, give me a good Orval any day of the week. But also, I just like Brett beer. I don't need acid. I don't need a lot of other things. I just like that wild yeast and what it does to beer. Um, but it's not something consumers don't run
Yeah,
to.
it's a pretty small segment of consumers that are interested in some of those flavors, but
Yeah, the funk.
um, luckily, we have some of those in Nashville, and Nashville being so tourist driven that we see a lot of tourists that are coming in, like specifically beer geek
Sure.
tourism that are just like, oh, what have you got that's funky? And we owe a lot of that to Brandon Jones from Embrace the Funk that kind of paved the way for funky and sour
100%.
beer in Tennessee and the Southeast. Um,
Love his beers.
yeah, I had a couple beers with him last night at the tap room, so just a wonderful human.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was my follow-up question was sour beer come back or never left, but it sounds you answered that pretty easily. So yeah,
Yeah, and it never really left for us. It's just it declined. Through COVID, we couldn't get our bottles. We tried to package in many different formats. I think as people's budgets tighten due to inflation and whatever other reasons, there's less and less consumers that are willing to spend 15 to $20 on a bottle of mixed culture beer. And
yeah,
I think we did a good job of like pivoting away from 750s into 500s early enough that we didn't really see too much of a squeeze on that. Um,
perfect size to split between another person.
yeah, I think 500 is great format for that. You can do it on your own if you really want to do it, and I've done it hundreds of times.
All right.
And it's a perfect size to split as well. My dog really wants to play fetch right now. Just putting the ball in my lap. Yeah, I wouldn't say never. We've seen some promising comeback on it this year,
Yeah.
specifically in draft and distro.
Okay.
And it's always going to be a huge part of what we do. It's still, it's 10% of our like volume production, a little bit more than 10% of our volume, but it's 40% of our revenue. Because people are still coming to Barrique for sour beer, and then they might have a lager or two. We do have obviously people that are coming specifically for the lagers and stuff as well. But yeah, for us, it hasn't left, and um, yeah, that's promising. We're not giving up on it anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah, I hope not.
It's it's our identity. It's part of what it's how we founded it, and
It's always hard for me as a brewer to see a lot of breweries that go away from the identity that made them successful originally, and they decide they see what they perceive as a market trend and they pivot hard towards it.
yeah,
Meanwhile, losing some of those original fans, and the idea of what they were doing was actually the thing that could continue to give them consistent success, as opposed to, hey, look at this flashy thing over here, let's go make it.
yeah. And I mean, maybe people could perceive that's when we got into making non-sour beer, that could be a perception that it was like, all right, well, we need to change, we need to pivot here. But it was more of like a natural progression for us. We had moved warehouses, acquired brewing equipment that we never had before. We didn't have a brew house when Joel first started it, and it was like, all right, well, we're gonna make some non-sour beer. We never had a tap room before, so when we opened the tap room, we're like, we can't only serve sour beer. We understand that like there's a pretty big segment of the market that it doesn't want those flavors or doesn't
Yeah,
want to spend $15 on a beer. So yeah, I think we've I don't know like how we like presented it, or like maybe it's my because I came on and led the focus on the single culture beer, so maybe it was my passion for it that made it clear that we weren't like pivoting away from sour beer. It was just this was now just like a new arm of what Barrique is going to do. um yeah, it's been a fun ride though. you know
I like what you guys are doing there, and I think that balance makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you wanted to lead the charge on the monoculture side of it, and I think Joel was smart enough to, let his head brewer cook.
yeah,
It's done good things for the business. It gives you more exposure in the market, but you still have, if I show up to Brewery tomorrow, the first beer I want to have is a mixed culture beer before I dip into the lagers.
yeah, this year's spawn blend is tasting
Oh,
pretty nice.
want,
Yeah,
want.
and I know that you've messed around with some grapes and stuff. You obviously have great access to that up there. We're right in the kind of the tail end of our fruiting season. We're getting in grapes the last couple weeks, so it's been fun.
Hey, you got a destemmer a year ago or 2 years ago?
Last year we picked up a destemmer crusher, just this little like motorized one. It,
Sure.
it eats our grapes quicker than we can kind of throw them in there. It's been a godsend.
That's a lot less physical labor to get them.
Yeah, handy stemming was quickly becoming tiresome,
Yeah.
and we found ourselves doing more like whole cluster fermentations and stuff. So we're getting a lot more like tannic beer out of that, I believe. And we're
Oh,
still doing some whole cluster stuff because I don't want to completely give up on that. And I think Joel feels the same way. I think that some of those flavors can lend some positive notes to blends and stuff.
like a
But yeah,
carbon maceration kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, we've done plenty of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, take the
when
head, take the
meat
head off a
for
barrel, fill it with grapes on the stems, and then put the head back on and inject CO2 in it every day for several weeks until we go ahead and put beer on it. It's been really fun.
it's a different ball of wax than throwing hops in a dry hop port.
Yeah. Well, I don't get to do that very much. So when I do make IPA, I get excited about it. Well, should we wrap this up?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, I just want to say thanks to Jesse, and wrap up this conversation. Jesse will be back next week on the next episode of the show, starting out next week, as the host, having a conversation with the brewer of his choosing. That will be on air in 2 weeks, so make sure you tune in for that. A reminder: visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media to support journalism in the beer space. Check out allaboutbeer.com/support. I'm Spencer Longhurst of Barrique Brewing and Blending. Thank you for listening to the Brewer to Brewer podcast.
I'm Bradley Zimmerman from Badger Hill Brewing in Shakopee, Minnesota. Malta Mexico 2 Row is the first of its kind, so I was excited to try it out and see how it performed in the brew house. We had just brewed Mucho Gusto, our Mexican lager, so we used Malta, Mexico in our American light lager called Longhorn. Performed well in the brew house. There's a little bit of toasted, flaked rice, and then some rice syrup solids in the kettle, and a touch of dextrin in the beer as well, and that's it. So it's basically showcasing Malta Mexico two-row. We normally use a Pilsner malt in that beer, so we got similar notes to a Pilsner malt, but we got a little bit more cracker out of it. A little bit of not toast and not bread dough, kind of somewhere in between. It had a pleasant sweetness to it, but it wasn't cloying or anything like that. Performed well in the brew house. We hit all our numbers as far as efficiency goes, so we were happy with the results there. If you're doing Mexican style lagers, Malta definitely helps tell the story, especially since it's grown and malted in Mexico. No one's ever done that to this date, so it's fun to get people excited about that process and where things are going. We definitely like to tell that story. Contact Malt Europe today and visit maltingco.com.
This episode was proudly brought to you by Ollie, the brewery software that could save you massive amounts of money and time, just like we did for hundreds of brewers like you in 2024. Make 2025 the year you switch to Ollie and discover why it's the fastest growing brewery software trusted by thousands of brewers across the globe. Visit getollie.com/pod to learn more. One more time, that's getollie.com/pod. Cheers.